to drawing the bughouse on the front here, you will need a pencil, sharp pencil, so make sure you've got a sharpener and a ruler and also a rubber, which I have on the end of the pencil. Okay, so start at the bottom of your piece of paper, and you want to draw your first dimension along the bottom here, and that's going to be 120 along. I'm going to draw mine in the bottom left, just in case some of you want to take this further by drawing an orthographic drawing. So 120 millimeters long, and then go up by 6 millimeters, because that's the thickness of your plywood, so I can just draw that line straight up, and then come over to this side and draw that straight up by 6 millimeters like that, and then just connect those two lines along like that. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to draw yourself this halving joint. Now this halving joint is quite interesting. Okay, it's the whole piece of material is, I can't quite fit my pencil inside, the whole piece of material is 9 millimeters. So I'm going to, let's say we start from 100 here, and count that from my 0. So I'm going to come in by 4 millimeters, so the outside thickness is 5 mil. So you've got yourself a line there that is 5 millimeters long from there to there, and then it's going to come up by 4 millimeters. Okay, so from there, that's where it's going to start going up. Alright, and you're going to draw this. For the purposes of this drawing, we're going to go up by 65 millimeters. Okay, so this bit you might need to rub some of this out later on. Okay, so actually we'll go up by 70 for this one. Okay, so you might need to rub some of this out later on. I'm going to match this one. We've already drawn 6 here, so I'm going to sort of measure it from the bottom, but you're only drawing it from the side there. Okay, like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to draw that along lightly like that, so you can see where the top is. You can do the same on this side over here. So I will just turn my rules, a bit strange here, but I'm going to go in by 4 millimeters. So draw a line that's 5 millimeters along like that, start there, and then 4 millimeters along this side here, and then go up by 70 millimeters from the very base. Okay. Okay, and match that on this side here, starting from the base, but only drawing from the top part of your plywood for the inside area. Okay, I'm just going to kind of draw that along like that. So there you go, you can see I've drawn the kind of base. Now, this kind of central point is a little bit tricky. There's a number of different ways you can do that. So let's start by taking your kind of 120 millimeter line, this area here, alright, and then just halfway along that will be 60 millimeters. So I'm just going to draw my kind of 60 millimeter dot there. So I've drawn the middle of this and just measured it, and I want to draw a nice vertical line, okay, for this. So I'm just going to draw a very light line that I'm going to rub out later, okay, just going up like that, okay. Now, ideally, you will take something that has got a right angle. I've got one of my children's books, okay, sticker book, so it's got a book and it's going to reach. Now you're going to join these 3 dots. You're going to join this inner circle part here, this inside line here, and this kind of line here. And you want to use a right angle or a 90-degree angle to do that. So I'm going to put the kind of edge of the book here, the edge of the book here, and the point sort of touching that point there. Now, once you've got all of those lined up, you kind of are in the correct place, alright? And that's where you can just draw yourself a dot there, alright? Now, I'm not going to use my book to draw the actual lines, it's a bit wobbly with the pages. You can do that from A4 piece of paper or anything like that. Now that I've drawn that, I can just draw from this dot down to this line, and then I want to keep going. But you want to draw it quite lightly where you're going to keep going. So we're going to rub some of that line out, okay? Do the same on this side, just draw that line from that point down to that dot there, and just connect those two, and then keep going, okay? Just like that, alright? So we've got that line, and then whilst we're at it, we're just going to rub out these corners that are no longer going to be there. Just that one, and this one here. Alright, okay, so the smaller one of these lines is going to be, I think we said it was 110, and the bigger one as 116. So I'm going to measure this one, the smaller one, down to 110. So from this dot coming down to here at 110. Okay, and that's going to be my line, which I can now kind of darken up a little bit. Alright, like that. So I've got that nice line there. And again, it's 6 millimeters, so just make your dot on that. Do a dot here, come up, and do a dot on this side, like that. You can then kind of connect both of these areas. So line straight across like that. A line from there to your dot, and you can connect this line and this line here, like that. Okay, so that is 110 long, like that. Then this side here is going to be 116. So moving my kind of page to help me, I can now draw myself a line. So measure up at 116 along here, and then measure down your line to that point where you want to be just there at 116. I can now make between those 2 dots that line nice and thick. Okay, and you can measure 6 mil along. There, 6 mil along here. Okay, like that. And then you can connect those 2 lines like that. Okay, and you can connect this one there and down here. So you should be able to see that this one here is 6 millimeters longer because it reaches all the way to the top, but this one doesn't, and this is called a butt joint here. Alright, so that is the kind of basis of my frame, and then I want to also put a piece of, let's start this up one, I want to put a piece of kind of support bracket along this area here. So we're just going to measure a nice 10 millimeters in from here to here at 10 millimeters, and then from here to here, 10 millimeters, and then we can just draw those lines parallel to this line here, like that. Okay, and it should nicely meet. Okay, so that's my support bracket there, and then we've got one support beam that goes across here as well, and you should just be able to connect these 2 lines here and here, going straight across like that. Okay, and then we're going to just bring that down by 10 millimeters. In reality, it's probably slightly less than 10 millimeters. Your actual block that you are going to be working with, it might be 9 or 8, but for the purposes of our drawing, we're going to keep it nice and simple. So there you go, now you have your kind of your front room. That's a homework essentially drawn, but not annotated yet. So you can go over these lines, I would, and then rub out any extra ones like this one, this extra line here, just try to rub that one out, and anything that went over the line here. You also want to rub out this kind of central line that you drew. Like that. So that's now all rubbed out, and here. Just go over all your lines. Just making sure they're nice and solid, okay, and nice and straight, like that, and the bottom one as well. Now, you'll see that we've got these different wood joints that you want to label and annotate, and we also want to put in our dimensions. So, first dimension we're going to put in is this base piece of plywood. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line going straight across here, and then add 2 little arrows like that, and I'm going to put that in as 120. The next one I'm going to do, it comes up from this line here, right down to the bottom, okay, like that, arrow there, arrow here, and that is 70 millimeters from the base here to this point. Now the only thing is that it's not totally clear where that line is, so I'm just going to add a little construction line, and that is just a very very little light dotted line that comes across to there and to there. And you can see I've just put this arrow slightly too high, so just rub that out and just put it in bang on that construction line. Now it's quite easy to see where that sort of line comes along. We also want it to be this line here, so I'm going to draw another construction line coming across here. Okay, and I'm going to draw a nice line here at 10 millimeters. Okay, you might want to include this kind of width here, so let's draw some kind of slight construction lines coming up. Just above the house, okay, like that. Dotted lines, okay, and then you can now just above that make those lines. Okay, like that. Like that. And that one is essentially your, it should be 120 minus 4 minus 4, which is 112, which I have managed to confirm. Alright, and then we also want to do this. Now you can see, I've done this kind of slightly on purpose, that you can see that I'm going to draw a line along here, but it's going to have to fit just slightly inside here to come down to this point here. So we're going to draw ourselves a nice line that goes up to here, alright, on there, down to there. Can you see how this line kind of over crosses it? So this one is 1, 1, 0, and then this one here, just check that's in line. And here as 1, 1, 6. Okay, so we have all these parts, maybe not the thickness of this, so let's just put in a, you can either do this down here or up here. I'm just going to put in another construction line here. Okay, and you could do this all the way to the top if you wanted to. Alright, and do it here to add in another line between those 2 points to show that that one is 9 millimeters thick. Alright, can you see any dimensions I haven't included? Possibly this one here. So let's just add in. Now the problem with doing this is that I'll tell you some things that could be better in a minute, and why you might sometimes be doing these things twice to get them perfect. Alright, so that one is 10. Okay, so let's turn that way and this in the other way. You might like to decide on this angle, so you could add a dimension here as a 45 degree angle. You could put another one in here, okay? And you might use something to kind of draw around there if you aren't totally, you know, to get that sort of angle perfect, but we're just going to put that in at 90 degrees. Alright, and I think we've now covered everything in our front view. So the last thing that we want to do is we want to just annotate some of these wood joints. So I'm going to just bring a line across like that. I'm going to annotate this as a lap joint. I'm going to annotate this one here, and it is helpful if you draw these in with a line, so you might annotate it as a butt joint. And you could annotate this bit of wood. It's debatable what type of joint it's in. It's not a mitre joint as such, but I'm going to say mark with mitre square. Okay, just to be nice and accurate. And there you go. The last thing you can write is all measurements in millimetres. And there you have it. That's your front view of your bughouse. The last thing I'd mention is how to make this slightly better than what I've done here. All of these dimensions should be equally kind of separated. So the distance between here and here should really be somewhere equal to the distance between here and here. Any smaller dimensions should be inside the longer dimension. So I've done this one correctly between here and here. This one is on the inside. But this distance between here and here should be the same as this distance from here to here. So you can see I would really want to space that out, this 70, and bring it down. But then this 120 would have to come down as well to an equal distance to one of these two. I've added construction lines, these kind of construction lines here, or kind of these guidelines, but I